friends. Welcome back to Beyond the Screen, the Family Connection podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Samantha Hayes, educator, parent, and founder of Beyond the Screen Families. And today we're talking about something that every single parent experiences, every single one of us. But we don't usually say it out loud, or we don't talk about it, or we just kind of keep it under wraps. And that is that limiting screen time is hard, not because kids love screens. I think that's usually the default we go to. We say, it's really hard to limit the screen time because my kid just loves it so much. That's not the real reason. It's hard because of what happens when you say no. It's the underlying tone that I hear over and over and over again all the time when I'm talking to parents. It's what happens because of the no that makes limiting screen time so hard. It's the meltdowns, the whining, the bargaining, the everyone else gets to, the way you start doubting yourself halfway through that boundary you've set. That's the hardest part. And that's what I hear over and over again from families, is that every time I remove the screen, my kid throws a fit. That's what makes it so hard. And if you've ever thought, why does this feel like such an uphill battle? You're not alone. We're all feeling it. We're all in that same boat together. So today we're going to break down what's really happening in those moments and how to handle them without turning your house into a battle royale. And if this is speaking to you today, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So let's talk about the hardest part of limiting screens. It's not the logistics. It's emotional resistance. When you remove or reduce something that provides stimulation and escape, regulation, and predictability, you're going to see emotion. That's something natural that happens when all of those things are present and then you take it away. Our brains naturally want to resist. And often we interpret that emotional resistance in our children to be disrespect, manipulation, or defiance. But most of the time, it's not that. It's dysregulation. Screens provide fast dopamine hits and predictable feedback. When that gets removed, the nervous system has to recalibrate. It has to. And that recalibration doesn't feel good. It's why the pushback happens. Think about it. They're with a screen device. They're getting feedback, consistency, stimulation, regulation, like all of those things. They're quiet. They're looking at it. They're engaged in it. And then we remove it. And the brain's like, ah! You want me to what? So when your child melts down after you limit screens, what you're often seeing is just the brain adjusting. It does its little freak out, and then it'll adjust. That's why when I'm talking with parents all the time, I'm like, let it go past the first 15 minutes. Because the brain has to adjust from the environment that it was just in. It's not your child trying to control you. It's just the brain adjusting. So let's talk about why kids push back. There are three main reasons as to why this happens. Number one, and we talk about this a lot, is that screens are easy. Screens get utilized most frequently because they are easy, because they are the default. When something's easy, then you just pull it out. There's not a lot of brain work that has to do it. That becomes the default because the brain's not trying to work. It's like, give me the easy mode, staples in the easy button, right? Give me easy. And that's where the screens come in. Screens do the work for kids. Real world play requires effort. It requires thinking and hard work and manipulation and actual movement. So when you remove screens, you're asking the brain to do more. And that's why screens win, because the brain doesn't have to do more. It can just sit there and be stimulated with the 10,000 frames a second or whatever. I just saw something about even how kids' cartoons and things have changed, and the stimulation is crazy. Okay, so that was number one. They're easy. Number two, screens regulate quickly. If your child uses screens to calm down, to decompress, or avoid boredom, limiting them means they need a new regulation tool. And I've been talking about this a lot, and you've seen it on the LD podcast when I was on there with Jill Stoll. Kids don't have an ingrained sense and an ingrained set of regulation tools. That's what they need us for, is to help them understand it. It's why when you have a little baby who gets upset, you pull them in close so they can feel your comfort and co-regulate with you. And as kids continue to age, they need our assistance in understanding appropriate regulation strategies. And you're going to see friction if the primary regulation strategy is a screen. When you remove it, kids don't know what to do next. And so they start to push back because they don't have other tools in their toolbox. All they know is that the screen calms them down. Number three is screens are predictable. In a world that feels big and uncertain, screens are controlled, contained, and safe. And I am saying safe because we know that games like Roblox and Minecraft and applications like Snapchat, those things are not all safe. There's lots of avenues that make them unsafe. There's lots of things happening on them that make them unsafe, but screens feel safe because they're consistent. They're consistently there, providing stimulation. Limiting screens can feel destabilizing at first. And if you understand that as a parent, it can change your tone. It shifts from, why are you acting like this when I take away the screen, to, this is hard for you. I understand this is hard for you. That shift, it changes everything. It changes how you and your child can interact together over screens. So what makes parents give in? Let's talk about the flip side of it. You know, kids are pushing back because of these rules. So why are parents giving in? Because the real breaking point isn't often the child's. And I just need you to think about that for a second. The real breaking point isn't often the child. It's the parents. We give in because we're tired. We perhaps don't want conflict. We're second guessing things, and we feel guilty. And I just recently watched an interview between Jonathan Haddett and Michelle Obama, where she was talking about screens and how important it is to remember that we are the parents and it's our responsibility to determine what our kids can and cannot do and setting those clear, crystal boundaries. Not giving in, knowing our kids might be upset with us with the boundaries we're setting, but that's our responsibility as parents. And I think that fits in here, right? And sometimes I know we just need quiet. The other day I came back, I was feeling exhausted. I'm hitting so many of the things I just talked to you about. I was feeling exhausted. And I was like, I just need to sit down on the couch. And my kids were like, can we watch a movie? And I said, sure. We're not going to do this all the time, but sure, we're going to do it tonight. Because sometimes those things are all just hitting. And then did I feel some mom guilt about how I violated our own screen plan? Absolutely. But there's no shame in any of that. Here's what creates the cycle. We decide to limit screens as a family. Our kids protest. They throw big fits, they throw big temper tantrums, and then we give in. What our child learns is that my temper tantrums, my protests, they work to get me back to what I want or what I think I want, the easy button for my brain. And so the next time it comes around, the kid already knows what works. So they protest even louder. And we have this vicious cycle that happens over and over again. Here's the thing. It's not about becoming stricter. It's about becoming steadier, about being more consistent. Calm, predictable, prepared wins every single time. Every time. Here's what I share with families when I'm working with them and having conversations with them. The number one thing is to state your boundary calmly. Not long explanations, not lectures. We don't have to go on and on and on with our kids and tell them what the boundary is. Screen time is done for today. I use this in my own household all the time. Even when I have those nights where I'm exhausted and like emotionally tapped out and we sit down and we watch a movie together. And I'll say, yes, we're going to watch this one movie or this one show. And as soon as it's done, the screen goes off. Done it. There's no explanation. There's no rationale. It's that clear boundary. Number two is to validate emotions. So if your child starts to protest, I know this is disappointing. Remember, it doesn't have to be long and drawn out. Just validation. Validation is not permission. It's acknowledgement. It lets our kids know that we see, hear, and understand them. Number three is to hold the line. You don't need to argue. You don't need to defend. Just calm repetition builds safety. So let's talk these 3 steps through for a second. Screens are done for today. Child might protest. I know this is disappointing. Screens are done for today. Hold that line. When they see there's no amp up, when they see there's no protest that's winning, behaviors start to change. Now, as a reminder, it takes 3 to 7 days for those behaviors to really start to change and 21 days for it to truly become a habit, for them to fully understand it. So stick with it. I know it's hard. I know that sometimes it's like, oh, I don't know if I even have the emotional capacity for this today. Remember, clear consistency, calm, predictable behavior wins. Number 4 for all of this is that redirect to something concrete. And we talk about this all the time. It's why we focus so much on replacement activities. Kids aren't sure what to do instead. They don't always have that in there. Remember, we're helping them fine-tune those abilities, those regulation strategies, those replacement activities. We are helping them build that. so that they can successfully do that later on in life. But they don't come with that in there. So instead of just go play, you have something specific for them to do. Maybe it's a build challenge or something like that. Something specific and easy. Screens are done for today. And then why don't you go build with your magnetic tiles a city for me? And then they'll go off and that thing will turn into something else. And as soon as their brain starts working, their brain likes the challenges, it likes the rewards that it's getting from real life play, and they will stay engaged in it. Because boundaries without alternatives feels like deprivation. Boundaries with alternatives feel like guidance. So how do you become really successful at limiting screen time and having those limits in and those boundaries and all of that? You don't win in the moment. What do I mean by that? You prepare for it beforehand. Families prepare, have predictable routines. They have clear screen windows. They've discussed a plan. They know what their windows are, and they have alternatives at the ready. We talk about this all the time about having things accessible, having alternatives accessible. If you're constantly trying to invent something in the moment, you're going to be exhausted because you're requiring your brain to do a lot of hard, quick work in the moment to stop the temper tantrum to already be exhausted over. Preparation reduces friction. And if you've watched some of the others, I'm a big fan of back pocket activities. Those are really simple things that you can pull out and be like, how about you go do this instead? Something you pull it out of your back pocket, it's routine. It might be the same challenge over and over and over again that your child will then execute differently each time. When kids know what's coming next, the resistance shrinks over time. It's not immediate, it's steady. So when we talk about accessible materials, that's one of the reasons why the Wonder Box was created. And I just want to show it to you so you have an understanding. The Wonder Box is meant to spark curiosity, invite hands-on exploration, and offer concrete steps. So I'm going to open it up. This is our newest box, which is the Build Box. Each box comes with items in it, and you can see based on this box is meant to be reused over and over and over again. You show over 10 hours of accessible, easy, go get the Wonder Box. That's all you can say. That's an accessible alternative. Go get the Wonder Box and pick out a prompt card. These curiosity prompt cards are probably not what you've seen before. They're not in other boxes. Other boxes give you specific activities, one-time things where you follow specific instructions to create something or to do something. That's not the point here. The point here, you can see with this card, is to build something that holds a toy. This one prompt can be executed in so many different ways. And there's 30 of these. It makes those back pocket activities super easy. And maybe it starts with this, but these prompt cards can go with anything. I could assign magnetiles or blocks, which are in this box, or something else for this prompt card. So I can have my kid do this prompt card in so many different ways. The boxes are not a go be creative. It's a tangible invitation. So when kids have something compelling, waiting, transitions get smoother and pushback softens. The screen doesn't always have to be the only good option. And in fact, the more you rely on something like this, the more often they are apt to go grab it on their own. And then the screens don't win because this becomes easy and it's rewarding and it's challenging and it hits a lot of those same brain centers that a screen does in a much more real, tangible way. So if limiting screens feels hard in your home, the Wonder Box is designed to make it lighter. You can find the link directly to the Wonder Box in the show notes. So here's your reflection for this week. Are you trying to win the battle or build the skill? Because limiting screens isn't about control. It's about helping kids grow the capacity to live well with technology. And that takes steadiness, not perfection. Thanks for spending some of your time with me today. Here's to creating more moments that stick. Bye, friends.